Good morning, everybody. My name is Lekan Kolawole. I'm a medical doctor. I live in Nigeria. I want to speak on a few silent diseases because, for the sake of, especially of those who are in their late 30s, in their 40s, in their 50s, and above. There are some diseases that people have and are not aware of because those things are just in the body and they've not started causing serious problems. Usually, those things don't show up until they've caused complications, and so sometimes people have these things in their bodies, and of course, because by themselves they don't cause symptoms, they don't cause problems, so they'll just be there causing harm, unseen harm in the body, and it's when those things, have really, gone out of proportion that they begin to cause symptoms. The first one I'll talk about is high blood pressure, also called hypertension. There's a misconception, there's a wrong belief that hypertension simply means thinking too much or being emotionally overwhelmed. And in reality, that's not what hypertension means. What moves blood around our body is blood pressure. The heart is the pump that gets blood around our body to everywhere, everywhere in the body, because blood is what carries oxygen and the all the chemicals that we need for our various proper functioning. They are carried in the blood, and even when we eat as well and is digested and the nutrients from the food are absorbed, the blood carries everything around to all parts of the body, because every part of our body needs everything that in the blood. So the heart is what pumps the blood around the body, and there's like any pump, it works with pressure. Pressure moves things around, but there's a normal pressure, there's a normal range, there's a normal range within which the pressure is healthy and optimal. That is the blood pressure. If it's too high, it causes problems. If it's too low, it causes problems. So there's a normal range. In fact, everything about human beings happens within a normal, healthy range. So blood pressure is one of those things. There's a highest limit that the BP should not exceed, and there's a lowest limit that should not drop below. So when we do some activities, naturally our BP goes up, but for healthy people, the blood pressure comes down. Blood pressure is what we do, when they put something around the arm and pump it, or it self-inflates if it's a digital sphic. We use a sphic manometer for measuring blood pressure. That thing that we pump, or it's battery operated and wrap around the arm. But so when we do some activities like running, or even when we're emotionally disturbed or perturbed, the blood pressure rises. But for healthy people, it comes back to normal. It comes down to normal after some rest. But what happens with people that have hypertension is that whether they are at rest or under stress, or whatever their state, their BP is always in a high level. That's the resting level. It's always in a high level. So that's like people that when they now have difficult problems, it now goes out of hand, and they can have very serious complications. But for everybody, it's normal. Sometimes when we are disturbed or physically exerted and all that, BP comes up, or it's temporary, it comes down again. So what we mean hypertension is when someone has a persistently high blood pressure, and and when it happens like that, it's a silent thing. People can go on, like that every day to day. They live a normal life, and yet they don't know that their BP is very high. And the problem with high blood pressure is that in the background, it damages the kidneys, it damages the eyes, it damages the blood vessels that carry blood around the body. That's why some people, when they walk a bit, they begin to have pain at the back of their legs, the calves. And then it also, I've spoken about the kidneys. Then it can also damage the brain. It can cause stroke eventually. It can cause heart attack, because the heart is constantly working against the high blood pressure. So those are the complications of high blood pressure, and it's a silent disease. And the way to know our blood pressure is once in a while, let's go to pharmacies, because some pharmacies organize free. They do BP for people for free, at a very low, for a very small amount of money. Or go to clinics, or go to health centers, and let's have our blood pressure checked from time to time, so that we can be sure that okay, this is within a normal range. So that if it's out of normal, even though there are no symptoms, you're not feeling any problems in your body, you're not feeling any problems, the BP can be brought down, and it won't cause underground damage. The other the other silent disease I'll talk about is high cholesterol. Cholesterol is a type of fat. It's a good thing. It's part of it forms part of the covering of our cells. That is the membrane of the cells. Cholesterol is part of it. So it's a good thing that we need for functioning normally. But like all good things, too much of it is not good. So when cholesterol is too much in the blood too, that can be a problem. And there are different types of cholesterol depending on how heavy or how hard they are. There's high density. Okay, let me not go into the technical terms. There's soft cholesterol. There's hard cholesterol, and depending on the type of cholesterol, there's a good one which clears the one that is out in the system and takes it back to the liver, and there's a bad one that dissipates the fat around the blood vessels. And the problem with the bad cholesterol is that it tends to block the passage of blood, and just like high blood pressure too, people that have high cholesterol, they don't know until there's problem. So if it blocks, for example, if the cholesterol blocks the passage of blood to the brain, people can have a stroke. And then if cholesterol blocks the passage of blood to the muscle of the heart, that can cause a heart attack. So anything that gets blood, of course everything gets blood. So when cholesterol blocks those small blood vessels, those passages like pipes that carry blood around our body, if cholesterol blocks it, then what happens is that wherever that blood was supposed to go will suffer a lack of blood, and there will be damage, there will be death of that area. So that's the problem with high cholesterol. It's also a silent disease until there are problems. The last one I'll talk about is high blood sugar. Well, actually, high blood sugar may cause problems even from the beginning. So it may not be so silent like high blood pressure and cholesterol, but all the same, because high blood pressure, high cholesterol, they are in a family of diseases that tend to go hand in hand. There's high blood pressure, high cholesterol, there's high blood sugar, then there's the phenomenon of being too big. Those things, they are a family of diseases. We have a name we call them. I won't bore you with the medical terminology. Well, let me say it. They are called a metabolic syndrome. So those things, they are a family. So when we see any of them in anybody, we're supposed to check the person for all the other ones to be sure they are not present in the person. So high blood sugar can cause some problems too. Although usually if someone has a high blood pressure, there will be an evidence of it. It will cause problems that will be visible. So the main things that I've spoken about today that are really silent: high blood pressure and high cholesterol. So let's be aware of these things. Cholesterol too, blood tests can be done from time to time to check the level of our cholesterol. So if it's too high, there are drugs that can bring it down. And for high blood pressure, high cholesterol, and high blood sugar, being physically active, exercising regularly, eating the correct things, those things naturally can bring those things down, can bring those levels down towards normal as much as possible. And then if lifestyle adjustment is not adequate to bring them down, then it may be necessary to take drugs for these things. There's a phenomenon in Nigeria where people try to get spiritual help for these diseases, like prayers or use herbs from herbal, from people that work with natural products and all that. What I will say is that I won't discredit those things. Certainly not. I'm a believer in God. I'm a believer in Jesus Christ, and I believe in miracles. But when there's a miracle, the evidence will be that the BP has come down. So until there's an evidence that the blood pressure has come down, or the blood sugar has come down, or the cholesterol has come down, people should please continue taking their drugs. So that's the wise thing to do. And the way to know if one does not need drugs anymore for BP or high blood sugar or cholesterol will be that the value of those things will be dropping consistently, even at the lowest dose of a single drug. Then that's when we will know that this person doesn't need these drugs again and we can stop. But if BP is just normal and the person is still taking the drug regularly, that means that the reason the BP is normal is because of the drug. So it would be wrong, if someone has malaria and takes malaria drugs, once the symptoms go, the malaria is cleared from the blood, the person can stop the drugs. But BP is controlled. For people that have high blood pressure, that have hypertension, the control of BP is the drug. So if BP is just normal and the person is taking drugs, that means the reason the BP is normal is because of the drugs that the person is taking. That means that as soon as the person stops the drugs, BP is likely to go up again. So the way to know, as I said again, let me emphasize it, that someone doesn't need drugs again for blood pressure. Person will be on just a single drug, on the minimum dose of the drug, and yet people will keep dropping below normal. That means the person doesn't need the drug, because that drug would take the person into a low blood pressure if they continue it. So I hope this has been educative enough. Thank you very much.